falls are the number one cause of the most serious accidents, injuries, and deaths worldwide.
So if you slip and fall in the snow and the ice and you're injured on someone else's property, could you have a case to sue, and how do you get help? Well, we're going to answer all those questions and more right now, because that's what we're going to ask the lawyer on this episode. Hi again, everybody. I'm Rob Rosenthal with AskTheLawyers.com. My guest is New York City attorney Michele Mirman. I want to remind you right off the top, if you'd like to ask Michele questions about your situation, go to AskTheLawyers.com. Click the button at the upper right-hand part of the page that says Ask a Lawyer. I'll walk you right through the process, or you can just call the phone number that's on the screen when we're talking to Michele. Michele, it's always good to see you. Thank you for helping us out.
Good to see you too, Rob.
I'm going to guess this time of year in New York City, snow, ice, dangerous sidewalks, steps, that sort of thing. Is this a big problem this time of year there?
Well, we've been lucky so far. The weather has been mild, but yes, as winter approaches and we start getting snowstorms, snow and ice left on the sidewalk is a huge problem. Causes a lot of injuries, and unfortunately deaths to people who do fall.
Wow. Well, that was going to be one of my questions. How serious can these injuries be?
Very serious. Actually, according to the Centers for Disease Control, falls are the number one cause of the most serious accidents, injuries, and deaths worldwide.
Wow, I had no idea. I would assume part of the problem is if you can have, anytime you hit your head, that can be very serious results. And I'm assuming a lot of times that can be a problem here?
Correct. And with older people who sustain severe fractures, hip fractures, for example, that disable them and lay them up for a while, also result in death because they're not mobile for too long a period of time.
Where are the most common areas that we see these sort of slip and fall injuries? Is it mostly sidewalks? Where else might we see them?
Definitely sidewalks. In New York City, the 5 boroughs, we have our own rules issued by the government, rules and regulations regarding cleaning up the sidewalks. Property owners, not the city, is responsible for cleaning up their own sidewalks. There are time limits for doing it. The paths have to be so wide, they have to be 4 feet wide. The sidewalks have to be cleaned if there's a snowfall between 9 p.m. and 7 a.m. by 11 o'clock the next morning. And unfortunately, a lot of owners do not live up to their responsibilities.
It would seem to me in New York City might also be the problem that there's a lot of absentee owners. Does that make things more difficult?
Absolutely makes things more difficult. But many times, if there is an absentee owner, the obligation to clean the sidewalk falls on the tenant. There may be an agreement or a lease that requires the tenant, especially with stores, to take care of their sidewalks.
What are some rules of thumbs or something people should know to maybe help them know whether they have a case or not, Michele?
Well, if you fall during a snowstorm, you're really not going to have a case because the law in New York City, in the 5 boroughs, allows owners or the lessees who are maintaining the property until the snow stops in a certain number of hours afterwards. However, of course, as with everything in the law, there are exceptions. An exception could be, for example, if there's a snowstorm previously, the owner doesn't clean it up or fails to clean it up properly, and there's ice under new snow, and someone slips on that underlying ice, you may indeed have a lawsuit.
And how important is it to A, document the area and the scene, and B, to get someone like yourself to help them as quickly as possible? It would seem to me weather can change, and that could really change whether you're able to get any evidence of a wrongdoing.
Well, absolutely. You're 100% right, Rob. Most of us don't think of it. We have an accident, we fall, we hurt ourselves, we call 911, or somebody who sees the accident does. But it's critical to get that documentation. And in this case, photographs of what the snow looks like, the ice looks like, get the names of any witnesses, their telephone numbers, and of course, call 911 make sure that ambulance comes so that you can get whatever injuries you've sustained taken care of immediately. The fact of the matter is that the ambulance will also create a record of the date, the time, and the place where they picked you up so that there'll never be any guessing about what time your accident happened or where.
Some people, I think, maybe the public in general sometimes, Michele, they have a misperception about these kind of cases that they think, oh, this is an example of a frivolous lawsuit. What do you say to that?
Let me put it to you this way, Rob. If you're in a car accident, you're standing in a light, and you're hitting the rear, and somebody's caused major damage to your car, would you have any problem with bringing a lawsuit to recover whatever costs you had in getting your car repaired?
Right.
And I dare say the answer is no.
Right.
You walk up to the person who caused the accident, you hand them the bill, you expect to be paid. Well, if somebody has an obligation to take care of a sidewalk under the law, and the law in New York City is very, very clear. You live in Manhattan, Brooklyn, the Bronx, Queens, any part of the city, your own property, you must clear the sidewalk of snow within certain hours. If you don't, and a person is hurt severely, goes to the hospital, has injuries, fractures, scarring, hospitalization, isn't that the same as having a bill that the other person is required to pay? It's part of our law. It's not an eye for an eye justice anymore. If you have an injury, if you've suffered something at the hand of a wrongdoer, that wrongdoer under the law is required to pay what damages you may have suffered. And of course, the benefit is that we're not thrown onto the public care. The person who causes an injury pays for it. And again, if you've had a serious injury, if your life has been altered, if you have permanent damages, certainly you should have the right to recover and get recompense for the problems that you've had.
Well put, Michele. As always, thank you for making some time to help us out this time.
Thank you too, Rob. It's good to see you.
You as well. That's going to do it for this episode of Ask the Lawyer. My guest has been New York City attorney Michele Mirman. I remind you, if you'd like to ask Michele questions about your situation, it's easy. Go to askthelawyers.com. The upper right-hand part of the page, it says Ask a Lawyer. Click on that. It'll walk you through the very simple process. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Rosenthal with Ask the Lawyers.